It is a nice reminder that, Star Wars can still be good. Andor, episodes 1 through 3. I don't. I kind of get the release strategy on this one, but not fully. So, their first season, they also released the first 3 episodes in one go. And I think that made sense. And I actually honestly think it makes sense to release the first 3 specifically in one go here as well. Insofar as, like, it's kind of after the third one that you feel like you've gotten all the setup that you need, and it's like paced out so it's actually well told instead of cramming it all into one episode and feeling rushed and disjointed. But it's not the most compelling thing, but neither was it in the first episode, in the first season. So I don't want to be like, oh, this season's worse. Like, no, this season's off to a really solid start, just like the first season was off to a really solid start. But the first season's best stuff came later, and I'm kind of expecting the same here. Why they are releasing 3-episode chunks next week and then the week after, that I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that. We're going to talk about the first 3 episodes, and I'm going to talk about it pretty freely. I'm going to jump around, and I am certainly not going to hit every detail and every plot point, because it's 3 episodes worth of stuff. And also, squirrel brain. But anyways, there's a lot of small touches I like about this. I like that we kind of start out with, Andor stealing this TIE fighter, and there's immediately a problem because it doesn't fly the way he expected it to. So, like, he figures it out because he must have been trained in something, just not this. Like, they thought it was going to be different, but this is probably, derivative or built on top of what he was expecting, but just, he didn't know how to fly it right off, so just immediately he's just smashing it around. And, like, that in and of itself was kind of entertaining. And then he ends up on this planet, and these infighting rebels, would-be rebels, let's go with that. I actually really like that. It's the kind of thing that, if applied poorly, could really just come across as a swipe at anybody who claims they want revolution. Because this is the kind of thing I see oftentimes in pieces of media that aren't actually about revolution as an overall theme. So they'll just drop in characters like these dingbats who don't have a plan, are arguing over who's in charge, are infighting, and don't even really trust each other and seem more interested in sniping at each other than accomplishing anything. I see that dropped into something that isn't actually about revolution or revolutionaries, and it just feels like you're denigrating the entire concept. But that is fundamentally one of the major things that this series is about. So this feels more earned and more pointed, less like a general swipe at revolutionaries and more like a swipe at the kinds of people who have, let's say, at best a lot of passion, but no planning and no organization. I feel like that's going to be one of the major themes of this season, because the first season, a lot of it was about what makes us realize that we have to fight. What brings us to the point where we know, like, we cannot sit by and just let this happen. We have to do something. That wasn't the only thing the first season was about, but it was a pretty big part of it. This season seems like it's much more about, okay, we know we want to fight. How do we organize it, and how do we maintain that organization in the face of what we're facing? That seems to be at play with Mon Mothma and a lot of the stuff going on there, because certain things that she had set up are now possibly at risk of falling apart on her. And that absolutely seems to be at the heart of what's going on with these would-be rebels that Cassian's stuck with for a chunk of the time, because I don't doubt that there is a sincerity that they want to do something, but they are currently leaderless and they have no organization, no plan. And so instead, they just snipe at each other because that's who's around. That's what they can actually feel like they've done something by pointing out that the other ones don't have plans or have bad plans or whatever. But what does this actually accomplish? Absolutely nothing. Because passion for revolution, while no bad thing, is not only not helpful if you can't organize and plan, it might actually do more harm than good if all you've got is a lot of passion and maybe some weaponry, but no frickin' plan. So I really do appreciate the emphasis on the idea of like needing to know what you're doing and what you're accomplishing and knowing how it fits into larger goals and all this other stuff. So I appreciated that. I think that really works thematically within a show like this. We also get Krennic in, who was not in the first season, I don't think. I don't know, maybe he had a brief appearance. But he's around, and of course, we know he's pulling together what he needs for the Death Star. That hasn't been firmly identified, but we know that's what he's doing because that's his thing. It does make me wonder if we're gonna get a Mads Mikkelsen cameo at some point. I actually really like that. I think that'd be awesome. I'm not counting on it, but I think that'd be awesome. And we get the I'm so bad with character names. So we get okay, I'm just this is what my brain categorized them then. We get the bitch and the weasel. So we get, was it Dedra? I think that was it. Who is, very ambitious and calculating. And I actually really love the moment where Krennic tells her to her face, like, you're trying to be unreadable and I need you to knock it off because I know you already have a plan. So just talk to me. I actually like that a lot, kind of taking a little bit of the air out of her sails a little bit. And then there's the one, Silas? I don't know. The weasel, the little mama's boy. The two of them hooking up feels oddly appropriate. I think maybe my one criticism is the stuff with his mother, I think, went on too long. It's not a case of I don't think it should be there at all. I think enough was established about how much that relationship drains him as a person that it was worth touching on how her presence, or, whether she's physically there or just the notion of her impacts this relationship and this dynamic. But I do think they spent a little too much time on it. Although then again, maybe I only think that because it lent a little bit into cringe, and I hate cringe. Like I hate it. It makes me uncomfortable and I don't like watching it. So maybe that's why I felt there was a little too much of it. So I might be slightly biased on that measure. But coming back to Krennic and his little ensemble of people, and right now they're talking about, how do we extract the resources from Gorman, and at no point is it on Krennic's radar that they aren't going to do this. It gets pointed out like, yeah, we can. The mining operation involved in what we're getting might collapse the entire planet, but like not doing it is literally never an option. It's just, how do we justify doing it? How do we ensure that we look as good as possible while we do it? How do we ensure we meet minimum resistance while doing it? It's never a question of whether or not they're going to do it. And I really, really love those two. They got named. I don't care. The two propaganda scumbags from the Ministry of Enlightenment. Oh, what a skin crawling title. Oh, that's good. But like just listening to them talk about just this planet that's just minding its own damn business. Being like, don't they have a certain sense of arrogance to them? Aren't they always putting themselves first? Doesn't it seem like they're laughing at us? Which is literally something that a certain Cheeto-colored presidential figure has said about other countries, both allies and enemies. He has said that. Oh, this is really well written. This is really good. And that's the kind of thing that like feels properly pointed because it doesn't feel shoehorned in. This is where it makes sense for someone to deploy something like that and to pull a quote that freaking Dorito uses. Yeah. That's good. That's real good. I am here for this. I'm here for this writing. And then there's the stuff with Mon Mothma, which is a little more reliant on like the interpersonal character dynamics than a lot of the other stuff. Still worked pretty well. I do like Mon Mothma, and I really like Luthen? Luthen. Stellan Skarsgård's character. And then there's the I know his name started with a T, but the Silver Fox, who is the financial guy who now seems to be in a little bit of a rough position. What I appreciate about that is it emphasizes like the complexity of these things. It's not always enough just to get people on side. And it's kind of an interesting logistical point that he notes like rebel activity, which I'm helping fund, is hurting my finances. And like the immediate issue is, will he go to someone who we can't trust and then potentially compromise the whole organization? But even if he wasn't doing that, there's still a potential problem that if he's helping with the finances and he starts financially struggling, do we start altering rebellion tactics that might well be working for the sake of the financier of the rebellion? I kind of hope that it'll dig a little bit more into that when Mon Mothma meets with him, because like that's a fascinating idea. It might not. It might just focus a bit more on the idea of him turning to the wrong people because he's getting increasingly out of sorts and maybe a little desperate. But I kind of hope they'll dig a little bit into that because that's a really interesting notion. And okay. So I'm just going to call it the Grain Planet. Yeah, there where we basically get a migrant worker story where we have people who are there to help get the work done, who are needed, but are technically illegal. They are not supposed to be there, and you have an audit as they come in, and there's part of me that almost would have preferred to have like a slightly more jaded Imperial person come in and like, look, I know you've got like 50 illegal migrants working here, and I know you need them to get the work done, and we need the food that you generate. So like, set aside 3, let me arrest those and let me leave. But like, that's not what they're doing. But there was part of me that kind of would have liked to have seen something like that. But rather instead, this is a case of like, they haven't had an audit for a while. And so these people are being sent in, and it probably is largely a show of force and probably with more manpower than is necessary just to be that intimidation factor. And then we get the attempted assault on Bix. That's her name, right? I'm half blind guessing to grab these names. I hope I'm getting at least some of them right. That was like, I think it was pretty well handled. It's a little bit surprising in something like Star Wars, because Star Wars is a pretty sexless franchise, if we're being honest. Like, the actual use of romance is incredibly limited. Sexuality even less so. And having someone actually say the word rape was jarring, but also felt appropriate. Because with these kinds of abuses of power that we are seeing, which like, yeah, that kind of stuff happens. Both in specific migrant situations and, just in terms of general fascism, the enforcers frequently make use of sexual violence, both as a tool of oppression and also for their own gratification. It feels honest that it's there. And thankfully, they didn't quite get to Game of Thrones levels with it. And it is really satisfying. The first time she picked, I don't know what it was, the middle thing she picked up on the floor and clocks him the side of the head. Oh, that was good. And like, I love that it doesn't drop him immediately. And he's staggering about, and then eventually he just staggers out and just drops and hits his head again on the way down. Good. So I think considering it's a kind of an off-brand topic for Star Wars to try and tackle it all, I think they did it pretty well. I think that might be just about all I've got for this. It's a solid start. I'm going to be more excited for the next 2 segments of 3 because it was the middle and the end of the first season that were the best. Best episodes of the previous season were the finale and One Way Out, where they broke out of the prison. Those were absolutely phenomenal pieces of television. And I am hoping to get to those heights again, and I have no doubt that we will. Because sometimes it can be like, oh, the season starts out, it's not as good as like the best of last season. Yes, that's true, but the best of last season wasn't in this same part of the story. First chunk of the story was largely setup and establishment and reiteration of themes and stuff like that. And that's largely what this is. We're setting up the logistics, we're setting up the thematics, we're making a couple points along the way as we go. Cool, solid. Show me what you got next. Because it's what you got next that I'm going to be real excited for. Andor, episodes 1 through 3. What did you think of these? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons, Robin Moore, Goddess Elida, Zubin Lopfula, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Movie Turtle, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Andre, Becky Sparks, Claire Wright, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Toku Bluhuvian, Adam RDL Taylor, Pal Barabajago, Mary Mello, Mira G, Sir Didymus is my favorite. I've never screwed that one up before. Well, if you want to hear me mess up your name, check out the rewards on the Patreon. I'm going to blame you.